Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hi, Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the corner bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And today I am super honored to have Jonni Jordyn. She's an author, but she has so many other skills and talents. It's unbelievable. I was doing some research on her and whoa, just every time I turn around, there's something else that's super important. So anyway, Jonni, why don't you join me and we'll kind of get into your book writing and other parts of your career.
Hi.
You started out at 2 years of age singing or music or whatever, and then you kind of took into singing and then into songwriting and into writing and filmmaking and all sorts of things. So you have kind of a very varied career, and then you eventually ended up writing novels, but poetry and short stories. It seems like whether you're writing a song or writing a short story or writing something, writing has been part of your past for a long time.
It has. I became much more serious in college, and in college, I was looking at several possible career options, and writing was one of them. But music had kind of a seductive quality, and I started playing music, and ended up playing with some pretty well-known people.
Yeah, I was noticing on one of the deals I was researching, you played in Los Angeles, and you were just before the Blues Brothers, and I just can imagine that other things like that are just people just dream of doing something that even remote, touching something of that magnitude. So, but what are some of the other people you've actually played with or introduced in the music field?
I was in a show which included the Marvelettes. And they sang live. It was a real great honor to play with them. Our band was famous in its own respect, and we went on. We did 3 songs, but the Marvelettes came on, and as far as I'm concerned, they were the stars of the show.
Oh, that was a few years ago, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was quite a few years ago.
But you like jazz and Latin. Why did you kind of gravitate toward those? Is it just the feeling of the music or what?
Uh, it turns out that I had a natural, innate talent for Latin, and this was a surprise to me. But somebody heard one of my tapes and introduced me to someone else who is someone who wrote one of the most famous songs in Latin pop, at least in California. They called it the national anthem for the Chicano people. And I just had this natural talent for doing the Latin rhythms. I don't know why. My mother listened to Italian opera when I was young, and I just don't think it's the same.
Okay, now when you're doing your music, as I understand, you don't read sheet music per se, but you pick it up and just can play whatever happens to be there.
Yes, yeah. I can read sheet music. I can't read it live. I can't just sit down and sight read anything. But and that has worked towards my advantage, because there have been times that accidents have happened on stage, and I had to go with the accident and not with the way the music was written. But I have it's just when I was young, I could harmonize with my father in real time. So it's just something I was born with.
My brother-in-law passed away just literally a couple of years ago, and he was a singer-songwriter, had produced quite a few CDs. But his one thing he noticed, that as he got older, he really needed to learn how to play the piano. And he's playing guitar all his life, so he ended up going, and he was like a 60, 70-year-old guy taking music lessons, learning how to play a piano. And anyway, I just thought it was kind of cute. But he would sit there and then practice with both hands and back and forth, and he got pretty good at it, so that he could support what he needed to do. But I guess we just assume that when you're a singer-songwriter, you already know how to do all those other things, but maybe not.
Not all of them. I would love to pick up a violin and teach myself to play violin.
But you do play piano. What else do you play?
I also play guitar, and I have excuse me. I have played guitar professionally also. I play ukulele and did for a while play clarinet and could pick up the flute.
When you started writing, was it songwriting or poetry or short stories or whatever that really got you into, I need to do something more?
Well, it was short stories and poetry that I did in college. One of those poems I actually turned into a song, put music to it. But as excited as my teachers got over my writing, I thought it was going to be a really hard path to reach publishers. So I did play music professionally. I played with Santana's brother and some of his co-band members from the Woodstock days. And I did that for about 20 years and then put it aside and went back to writing.
Okay, so you have the short stories, you have some poetry, but you have a book called The Lost Art of Magic, and then a couple sequels to that. So let's talk a little bit about how did this lost art of magic gradually appear in your brain, and you start, okay, fine, I got some characters, I got a plot, I got some twists, tell us how that evolved, because a lot of our authors are watching the show that they want to know, well, okay, I write nonfiction, I don't write novels, but there's always something that's out there that helps us in our writing capacity. So let's start a little bit about how did you come up with magic and your character, what, a 16-year-old girl, I think, if I remember right. Tell us a little bit about how that book was developed in your brain.
Well, I always start, and I should preface this for the other authors listening. I wasn't trained how to write. My classes were all, you read something, everybody goes, wow, or, applauds. And so I had to kind of figure out my own way. I always start with the beginning and an end. I know how I want to finish it, and I know how I'm going to introduce somebody to start it off. And sometimes that's all about, I have this idea about a character in mind, and I just, start, writing them. But for The Lost Art of Magic, I just had this idea about what if the old magic we always heard about, Merlin and all this, what if it was real? And what if there's a reason why it has disappeared? A reason above, oh, we don't believe in that anymore, it's just a myth. What if it actually disappeared, and then we started, maybe it wasn't ever real. So I started with that concept, and how can I reintroduce magic into the current world, and I can't give you the answer, because it takes the whole series before you really get the answer. But Destiny was descendant from one of the clans that did magic, and she accidentally discovered or accidentally reintroduced it into the world. And when she reintroduces it into the world, the other clan's descendants notice this, and they don't want, and they're willing to kill her to prevent her from having the power.
Interesting. And the plot that developed, I guess, is almost like a CIA kind of thing. Yeah, here's the good guy over here with the secret, and all the bad guys are coming in trying to stop it or whatever. So as I was reading a little bit about the book and the how you developed it, that was the first thing that came to my mind was, this sounds like some kind of TV show that I've seen, or a movie or whatever. Was there any influence at all from those kind of spy novels or assassin kind of things that kind of crept from the back of your brain into your book?
Probably. I can't name a specific one, but I did read a lot of Tom Clancy, and yes, you're absolutely right, nailed it. It's a lot of espionage, and a lot of the magic is there, but you don't really get to it until as you get towards the end, and it's the chase, it's the tracking down, and that's a large part of the book, plus some crazy dream sequences.
I noticed one thing that you did do was you put your little brother in one of the books, or two of the books.
I did. My baby brother was a part-time magician. He was also a police officer and a caretaker at a juvenile facility. But yeah, I put his magician show in one of the books, and it's actually one of the chase scenes where they're trying to escape whoever's chasing them, and they run through the audience and run through the backstage, and while his magic was going on.
One of the other skills or talents you have, I understand, is filmmaking. You were involved in that for a while. Have you used any of your filmmaking skills to highlight your books as far as a trailer or something like that people can view?
I have not. But what I have done is I think I've written my books with scene breaks that will very much make it easier and simpler to convert this to a movie. Are you listening, Hollywood? I think it'll be a pretty easy conversion.
Okay. So your brother was in there. Any other friends, family in any of your books?
No, he's the only one, and he's the only, and he knew it. He got to read it, before I lost him, and so he's the only one that's in there.
Now, I understand that when you're writing, even though you're a musician and you love a lot of things, you don't have music going on in the background.
Absolutely not. If I have music playing, my brain starts to synchronize with the beat, and all of a sudden I'm distracted.
Okay, so you start writing, you have a quiet place, you kind of know where you want your characters to go, the locations. how hard was it to actually describe a character and a location for somebody who's not a writer?
I do it in layers. I write a simple scene and get the whole book written out with simple scenes. Then I go back and I start fluffing it up, making it more flowery, adding some and I don't describe every single detail because I want the reader to be able to infer some things about the character by the way they talk and the location they're at. I kind of thought I didn't do that good a job of describing them, but my reviewers have said otherwise.
Do you have a editing team or a team of readers that helps you along the way? You have the plot, you have everything there, you're fluffing it up. At what point in time do you rely on either a developmental editor or some other kind of editing assistance to say, yeah, this is pretty darn good?
I haven't really engaged a development reader or editor, but I have. I have an editor out in the West Coast that I do send my books to get a first edit. I also revision them myself dozens and dozens of times before they get to my editor.
Revision, that's a term I'm not real familiar with. I'm sure there's another one, but tell me about your revisioning.
Well, I read the whole book, and that's where I'll sometimes I'm early in the book and go, oh, this character later in the book has this kind of a character. I better change this, tweak this right here to make it match. So I go through it, I read it 24 times and add layers of complexity to the characters.
Okay, so you're not only adding layers of complexity, but you're also aligning them so that they're identical throughout the book, and you're not changing a character in midstream, so to speak.
Yes, and worst case is I go back to start reading, I find that, oh, I changed their name, and I better get that in sync.
Do you use any photographs or images or pictures of your characters to keep you in total alignment with that character?
Not really, but I have sometimes had images of actresses that I wanted to kind of model the character after.
Interesting. The book as it's being developed, when do you actually start your marketing for the book? Is it halfway through, beginning, end?
That is a challenging question because I've started my marketing about 12 years after I wrote the first book.
Okay,
I'm just learning that part.
Yeah, it's like a songwriter and a singer, two different skills. You know, a writer is not a marketer, and two different skills. It really requires either hiring somebody or learning a new skill. But it's the lost art of magic. Well, you might as well say the lost art of marketing, or the writing. I find is the easiest part. I think most writers writing's easy.
Writing is the easiest part.
Yeah.
And if it's not the easiest part for you, then you might be doing the wrong part of the job in publishing a book.
And editing can be a bit of a nuance at times. Just how many times I read this, I see the same thing, and then I get away from it I didn't see that, and I read the thing 3 times.
When my editor was doing The Lost Art of Magic, she called me up several times and said, oh my God, I forgot I was editing and I just got lost in the book. I have to go back and redo the last 3 chapters.
That's always nice to hear. And that just that gives me a warm feeling inside when something like that happens.
Yes.
So
when I get to the ending of the book that I wrote and I've read 12 times or 24 times, and it still brings up tears and emotions for me, I know that I did something right.
Do you have part of your book, The Art of Magic, that you'd like to read a paragraph or two? I should have told you. I should have said that backstage, but anyway. But we do offer that option for the authors, that if there's something in there they think that would be valuable. Okay, moving right along. Your marketing started 12 years later. Did you already have your sequel out at that point in time, or was the success of The Lost Art of Magic something that demanded a sequel?
I had many readers that asked for more. They wanted to know where the characters go from here. I have actually completed the first 4 entries to this series. I have a 5th one that is floating around in my mind. I know what it's going to be titled. I know what it's going to try to accomplish, but I have not started reading that. I've actually, sometimes after you've written 3 or 4 books of all the same characters, you want to set it aside and work on something else for a while. So I actually have a couple other series that are partly done and in the works.
Are they in the same genre, or are they totally different?
One of them is not in the same genre, but it has even more of the intrigue and the spies, and actually has spies, actually has CIA and NSA and FBI, has kidnappings and all kinds of crazy goings on. So in that respect, it is very similar, but it's actually a sci-fi. And the other series is about life 12,000 years ago. So it bears no relationship with either of the others.
Do you do book signings or anything like that now that COVID's over?
I hope so. Haven't been asked yet.
So you went with the publicist. Is that kind of the solution to the marketing dilemma, or is this been something that, hey, that person had a lot of success, let me try? How did you decide, I don't want to learn marketing, but I'll hire somebody to do it?
I started attending some publishing conferences. In fact, I have another one coming up next week. In that, I listened to how other people were marketing theirs, and you're right, it's a skill set I do not possess. So I found a publicist and hired them. I'm paying them, and they helped me get this set up, and I'm hoping it will return dividends sooner than later, I hope.
Okay, so you went with The Lost Art of Magic, and then your next book, you introduced
the next
a new
one in the
character.
series is The Untold Prophecy.
Okay, and if our production engineer can pull up her website, we could show the covers on those, but let's see what happens here. But did you keep the same, you said the characters are similar, but as I'm researching your books and looking at what's going on, there was some change in the primary character, or somebody came in to steal the magic, or whatever?
Yes, we'll call her a distant cousin by marriage. She managed to steal the primary character's magic, and they had a duel because it's getting to the point where it's risking not just the magic characters but the entire nation, and so they had a big fight, and at the end of the fight, our heroine lies unconscious at the bottom of a large depression where they were blowing off the fire bombs that they produce, and then the third book is the family trying to find a way to save her.
So on the second book, the primary character doesn't die, but it is taken it's not as prominent a role.
Well, that's a spoiler.
Okay.
They thought she was dead, but she lied. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt for a second. If you go to the top and you go to books, I think you'll see the covers more easily displayed. So the primary character is in a coma in a hospital bed,
Okay.
and there's a lot going on with the cousin who stole the powers, and she's kind of crazy evil and wants to be the queen of the world.
So these twists and plots or things like that you're coming up with. 3 months ago, you didn't know that that was the twist that was going to come in there. These things just kind of evolve as you're developing the plot.
They did, and even more. The third book, and let me get my mind straight. The third book and the fourth book were going to be one book, and I had to divide them apart because it was just too many good characters being developed, and the characters kind of write the story for me, and so I had to. That was a major undertaking to unwind and untwist some of the plots to turn it into two separate books.
How about the locations? Are these locations that you're very familiar with, or are they made up?
One of the primary locations is the bayous in Louisiana. Now, I haven't lived there for any length of time, but I've visited many times and used what I knew to write it. But there are also locations I've done where I just had to do extensive research about places in the UK.
You have not been to the UK?
Unfortunately, I have not.
And that's why we have YouTube and all sorts of other things that we can look at and see exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
You have some interesting covers on your books. Tell us a little bit how your cover creation started, what you want to show, and what actually evolved, and how did you end up getting the covers done?
Well, this is new with my publishing team. We have an illustrator, and we've worked with we want a certain amount of similarity from book 1 through book 5, and we kind of throw some ideas back and forth until I go, yeah, that's the one, and that's how the covers you're looking at have evolved.
Yeah, I've had a similar thing where I'll go out and I'll hire, for $5 a piece, get 5 ebook covers, put them on social media and say A or B, B or C, C or D, whatever. And it's interesting that from an author perspective, we have kind of a mothering touch in our brain as to what we want, but it's not me who's buying my book, it's readers. And the reader's perception of what they see is a little different than mine as the author. And so when I put it out there, I find that, whoa, the one I like, nobody likes. The one that it's okay, they love. And so that's how I kind of, similar to you have feedback going back and forth, yes, no, back, yeah. And I think that's good because you're getting a lot of that, different people's brains operating on, well, that looks pretty good. I like that. Really does summarize that part of the book. And we had somebody on either last week or the week before where they had little things going on, and each of the things on the cover represented something that was in the book that if you didn't see it at the beginning, but as you got into the book, okay, fine, that's what those are. And I thought that was pretty interesting. About 4 weeks ago, I was reading on social media Hemingway's 5 things that all authors should know. And one of the things that I pointed out literally on each of the author shows that I've done is that he says, never finish a chapter or section when you know how you're going to end it. Just walk away, come back. That way, when you're going to sit down, you already know what you're going to do. It's not going to be just a blank slate. He says, boom, you know exactly, and you can change it. You can think about it all you want. But he says, if you write until everything is done, all of a sudden now you're sitting down and you have to come up with something new. But if you just leave that last 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs to wrap up that section of the book or that section of a chapter, it makes it so much easier when you come back. You're not worried about, well, what am I going to do next? Because you finished that and now your brain is back involved in that creation. And I thought that was probably some of the best advice I've seen, even from a nonfiction writer like me. I have a tendency to, let me finish this up so I can, get done. But in reality, I need to probably finish it in my brain, but not necessarily put my fingers to the keyboard. What do you think?
Well, I don't ever have to deviate from the ending that I have in mind. My characters will do that for me. As I don't fully define them in my head before I start writing, and as I'm writing them, they kind of take on a life of their own and show me who they are. And sometimes that does deviate from the plot that I had because I do plot out an outline of what I think I want to do. I just don't always stick to it because the characters go, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to be a bad guy.
I think one of the comments that you had made that I was researching was, okay, how am I going to write 10,000 words? And then how did I write 160,000 words? When we sit there as writers, authors, and we need to come up with 100,000 words, that's just no way in the world I can do that. But as you talk about, you have a character, you have a location, you have a plot, you have a twist, you have all sorts of things that are going on. It doesn't take any time at all before us. 10,000 words, that's 15,000 words, boom. So when you got to that 160,000 words, were you surprised or just it wasn't as hard as I thought it was?
I was surprised. And it was as hard as I thought it was. It was, but that was my very first book. And as I'm looking at it, 160,000 words, I went through to see if there's anything I could cut out of it, and there really wasn't much. And the advice I was given was, don't make that your premier book. So I set it aside, and that's when I started The Lost Art of Magic. So Lost Art of Magic was not the first book I wrote. It was the first book I published.
And how many books have you done total as novels or just regular good-sized books for publishing?
I think I'm around 12. And by the time we finish by the time we finish my current set of 12, I'll be up to like 14 or 15.
Oh, fantastic. And do you have another series besides The Lost Art of Magic or plans?
I have the first book I wrote was The Mother of All Viruses, and I already have a second book written, and I have started the third book. And that will only be the 3. There'll be a trilogy. I also have the book I mentioned about 12,000 years ago, Life and People. That was a challenge because I was originally releasing that one chapter every month. The chapter would be about 10 or 12,000 words. And so doing that, I really didn't have the opportunity to go back and fix chapter 1 after I changed, in chapter 9. But that was a challenge, and I've got 2 books completed that I released a month at a time, and I do still have to go finish the 3rd book.
Okay, so most of your books are current time. 1 book a while back. Anything in the future?
Yes, I have a rom-com that is centered around a cantankerous opera singer who's traveling in space and gets stranded on a dude ranch moon.
That's
she's rescued by a pirate.
Okay. Well, let me, before we start wrapping up the show, we got about 5-6 minutes left. A couple of points that I wanted to bring up that are non-writing, but I'm going to bring them up and then ask you if there's anything that you want to talk about that we didn't, and then we'll wrap things up. So it says one of the best things you've ever done was to go around Lake Tahoe twice. I guess you're
riding a bicycle around Lake Tahoe.
But you're in a boat. Okay, so you rode a bicycle around. Okay, I didn't pick that part up.
Yeah, that was I was a little younger when I did that, but yeah, it was pretty amazing. There's and then at the end of that ride, there's this epic downhill on the freeway to get back to the starting point.
So you went with the direction that you didn't have to go up that ramp. All the other ups were all gradual?
No, there was nothing gradual. It was like 4,000 feet of climb included in that ride around the lake.
And you did
It was
and you did
it was grueling, but I did it twice.
Why did you do it a second time?
Because it was so beautiful.
Okay, last non-writing question. I read something about a reference that you have a bird.
I had a bird.
You had a bird. Okay.
Yeah, she died earlier this year.
I'm sorry to hear. But
I had her for she was about 25 years old.
oh wow.
And I rescued her from a granddaughter when she was probably 7.
Interesting. I don't have too many bird people on here. We have cats, we have dogs, but that was the first one that I had as a bird. I go, okay, we'll ask about it. So, is there something?
I bet your cats and dogs don't sit on your shoulder while you're writing.
Oh, you do. My daughter has 2 small dogs, and when she's driving, one's always perched over her shoulders, and then the other one's a navigator that sits there in the middle of the. Anyway, that's another animal.
Oh.
But anything that I should have asked you about your writing, your career, your books, your publishing that you want to talk about, since we have a couple of minutes before we start wrapping the show up?
Well, I just want to clear one thing up, is that I have created my own imprint, my own publishing company, and I am rebranding everything into there, and that's why I'm re-releasing all of my books. They're all right now. I think I have 4 of them. One's released, and 3 of them are on pre-order, and I've got another one that's about to go in, and that's my retirement plan, because I think I'm already retirement age, and I think I'm going to be retired mid next year.
Okay, so your publishing company is going to be you only, or are you going to be publishing books for other people?
Right now it's me only, and the publishing company is Jordyn at Large Books.
Say that again.
Jordyn at Large Books.
Jordyn at Large Books. That's the name of your publishing company.
Yes.
And you're in the Colorado area. Is that still true?
That's still true.
Okay. That being said, let's look at how do people buy your books? How do people get in touch with you?
Right now they're only available on Amazon. I plan to expand to some bookstores when my publicist says it's time. And as I said, one book is ready now. You can buy it in paperback or in ebook. The other 3 are available for pre-order, and the pre-order on some of them includes the hardback, or the paperback rather, but certainly the ebook is available for pre-order. I can be reached at my email, which is in the chat, and I'm on TikTok at Jonni_Jordyn, but I don't release a whole lot of stuff on TikTok. I have released some poetry, which hasn't gathered a whole lot of interest, so I kind of lurk right now.
Okay, so for our audio audience that may be picking this up later on, you can reach Johnny's website is, hang on one second here.
It's
www.jordynatlargebooks.com.
Yeah, I was trying to remember if I included the books on that one, but yeah, it's books.com.
I'm looking at it right now. So it's Jordyn, Jordyn, at largebooks.com.
It is.
So it's Jonni, Jonni, Jordyn, Jordyn, at gmail.com is a good contact for you, for those people.
It is.
Okay. With that, I'm going to say it's been a wonderful time. I learned a lot. I wish we had more time to get into some of the musical aspects of your life, because I always find that to be fascinating. A product that 50s and 60s, and just really fell in love with that music even still today. So anyway, I look forward to our next conversation, and I wish you the best in your writing and in your publishing.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed your show.
Okay, take care, Johnny, and we will catch you later on. We're wrapping up the Corner Bookstore right now on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and I have two shows literally coming up next and next. We're about looks like 13 minutes away from the Wise Ones, and my guest today is Russell Little. He's an author here in the Houston area. He's also an attorney, and he writes his books on the cases that he has. And so we'll be talking about that here on the Wise Ones, literally in 10, 15 minutes. And then my show, 125th show on Talking Heads, and I'll be talking about how do we get started in 2025 for better health starting today. So with that, Brett O'Loughlin signing off on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and I look forward to seeing you in the future. Take care. Bye now.
We face daily cyber risks, spending over 7 hours of screen time, including 4.5 hours on mobile phones. This convenience comes with significant dangers, with cybercrime costs predicted to exceed $10.5 trillion by 2025. In 2023 alone, seniors lost over $3.4 billion to cybercrime. Our goal is to make social engineering concepts of cybersecurity easier to understand. We work with business teams, senior living facilities, investment companies, and educational institutions, both individually and in groups. We offer real-life examples to help you recognize and prevent attacks, with sessions available both in person, in selected regions, and remotely. Schedule your training session, or to learn more, contact us today. Call us at 847-845-9360. Email us at info@cybersecurityeasy.com. Protect your team and family with cybersecurityeasy.com.
My name is Dr. Felix Kravitz, and I am the founder of cybersecurityeasy.com, LLC. We live in a world full of vulnerabilities and cyber risks. We spend almost 4.5 hours a day on our mobile phones. It's over 7 hours of screen time daily when including computer use. We often forget that this convenience comes with risks. Published data predicts that the cost of cybercrime will exceed $10.5 trillion in 2025. These numbers encompass not only businesses, but also each one of us, including our children and our parents. In 2023, the FBI reported over $3.4 billion lost by seniors aged 60 and older. Cybersecurityeasy.com LLC's initiative is to massively support the community by providing cyber safety coaching and improving social engineering awareness. Our goal is to make social engineering concepts of cybersecurity easier to understand. We work with business teams, seniors, and educational institutions, both individually and in groups. We cover various topics from phone phishing attacks to AI-generated voice cloning, robocalls, password protection, and more using life examples. Talk to us today. Call us at 847-845-9360 or email us at info@cybersecurityeasy.com.